Hello.
Good morning.
I was worried I was on the wrong one when it was only you who were here.
Hi.
But I guess we've got two now, so at least there we go.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you, Stephanie?
Not too bad.
Okay. Reminder that we're here to protect data and use in an open and transparent collaborative community. Our antitrust policy. I sent out the agenda yesterday. I thought we'd give a kind of webinar recap and maybe have a discussion around webinar things going forward, given the first, this was the first one. I wanted to check in on the white paper changes. I think Stefano's made some of them, but I wanted to share that with people and just check in with Stefano. And then Stefano sent out the call for nomination, so I just wanted to review that so everybody, has an opportunity to ask questions, since I think the deadline is maybe before the next meeting. So those were the three things I had on the agenda. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add to the agenda? Nope. Okay, let's do roll call. Did somebody say something? Okay. Stefano, how are we doing on quorum?
We are one short.
Okay. Okay, well, let's skip the minutes and see if somebody shows up and we'll get back to that. Action item review. So Stefano, first one, and tell me if you want me to take these off at any point. Let me edit them here.
Sure. The web summary template just got backburnered for some of the other stuff we're doing.
Okay.
I think that.
I have not done the PR stuff, but I'm kind of backburnering that until we have a planned press release, because we don't really need it until that point. So. Ben, I think the upcoming events, do you remember this one? I saw you're on. What do you want to do with this action item? Or
I mean, you can take it off. I'm actually reviewing events this week and next week across everything I can have access to at Red Hat. So I'm going to be, and then I'll put them into the Google form.
Okay. So this we can take off because we just had the webinar.
Yeah, and I'm actually working with Craig. Hopefully we're going to get our webinar posted on the LF YouTube site. I figured rather than trying to create our own YouTube account and realize that we can't upload more than 20 minutes worth of video, it's probably best if we can use theirs. So I will.
Yeah, so that you can put it as an on-demand recording on our website.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll work on that, and yeah, you can take this one off.
Okay. Okay, so Stefano and I had a little review of the PowerPoint template, and I kind of shared what I was looking for. So I think you've taken that to LF Creative to see if they can handle that.
Right. Yeah, I've sort of lined things up on their plate. I didn't put the template at the top of the list since we just gave the webinar, but it is on their list.
Yeah, I think it was a little too rushed to be able to fix it by then. So we just worked with what we had for the webinar. In doing that, it was, and looking at the template again, it was clear that it needs to be done. It's a like kind of broken template. So since we're probably going to be doing more webinars and more slides, I'd like to get that fixed. Okay, these were the ones from last week around the white paper. Do you want to?
Yeah, those are, so both these changes and the changes to the TAC white paper are both top on LF Creative's lists.
Okay, so they're both in they're in progress.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, so it's sort of their current action item list for them is they've got the 2 white papers, and then once they're done with that, they're going to work on logos for the groups, specifically OESDK's logo and NRX's YouTube banner. And then once they're done with that, they'll work on the template.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any action items we missed or that need to be added? No. Okay. Let's do a webinar recap. Stefano, I looked at the reports you sent me, but they're not really very easy to discern the top line information. So I just did it from memory.
Sure.
So correct me if I'm wrong. But what was the final registrations?
Yeah, it was just over 140. I forget the exact number.
Okay. And was I correct about the 60 attendees?
Yeah, just about 60 that attended.
Okay, so just like quick recap, the webinar went off very smoothly. We kind of started on time, ended on time, no technical difficulties. I think for having 0 database of people to promote it to, getting 140 registrations was very good. And 60 attendees, is pretty good from a percent that show up. There was a very active Q&A session. We probably did 15 minutes of Q&A. There's still some unanswered questions there. We did allow people to do anonymous questions, so there's not really any way to follow up with those, the anonymous questions, but there are some unanswered ones where we have the email. So one thing I wanted to kind of follow up with is how do we want to go about answering those questions where we know the email. I guess it probably depends on what the question is. Any thoughts on that?
If some of the questions that came in from anonymous that we thought were worthy enough, we might want to consider addending them to the FAQ.
Yeah, I think if they're not in the FAQ and they're a good question that's unique, then here, you guys can see the spreadsheet. And some of them are like vendor questions. Hold on, let me. So we in the Q&A, we said we weren't going to, after some of these questions were submitted, we weren't going to submit specific, or we weren't going to answer questions about specific vendors, and we were going to refer them kind of to the vendors to follow up. So like, there's a question on Intel SGX here. So I imagine I can send that to Jesse since there's an email, and then they can, answer. So I think that category we can do that way. Some of these are more just back end. Some of these got answered verbally too. So like that one was answered. Hold on, let me. You can see here which ones are anonymous and some of these. So anyway, I think maybe we can go through these. Ava, maybe should I send them back around to the speakers or just the outreach list? The ones that are answerable. Let's see. What do you think?
Why not put all this put the questions in a Google Doc, circulate that on the lists, invite folks to contribute answers, and that way it's nice and collaborative and open. And if we do get good answers, those turn into a FAQ.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Okay, we don't need to go through every question right now. Live answered. Okay, so we've got good kind of metrics here on which ones were answered, so that's good. The other thing I wanted to do was, Stefano, can you confirm that everybody got a follow-up email with a recording that registered?
Sure. Yeah, I can do. I was also going to just send out an email to everybody who registered with the link to YouTube once we've posted our video there.
Okay.
That's
great.
kind of that's kind of happening in parallel, because that's more of me just bugging Craig to do it and less task for the LF creative group. I think Craig basically just has that login.
But I think the Zoom like stores it in cloud for replay, right? And then sends out an automatic email with.
I thought it would, yeah, and I didn't receive any, but I have to go back and look to see if my test user is still registered.
Can you check that? Because that's important, because more than half the people didn't attend and many people just register to get the recording. And
yeah, will do.
Okay, and then do we have this list of contacts in a form in which we can email them for the next webinar?
Yeah, we have a list of all the emails of the people who attended.
Okay, and do you have to
registered.
email them manually, or do we have like Salesforce or?
We have to email them manually because we're moving from Salesforce Marketing Cloud to HubSpot, and the transition isn't complete. So yeah, I'll just email them manually.
Okay. Okay. That'll probably be okay for the short term, but
right. Yeah, long term it'll be nice if these emails don't come from me.
Yeah, once the HubSpot thing is done, let's talk about that separately.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other kind of questions about the webinar that happened yesterday? We'll get it, Stefano working getting it on the website so everybody can watch it if they didn't attend. Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up was, I think one good way to get, and I mentioned this previously, I think, was to ask the members to post the webinar on their Bright Talk channels. And I know, Ben, you had looked into this, I think, for Red Hat, because you guys have an active Bright Talk channel. So, I just wanted to run that by people before I made that ask. Does that, so the idea would be we, give the MP4 recording and, permission for any member to, post it on one of their channels. That'll get a lot more, and, hopefully they tag it confidential computing or confidential computing consortium. And then that'll get more people watching this webinar. Any thoughts on that? Concerns, suggestions?
I mean, as far as me, you mentioned me, so yeah, I think, for me, the easiest thing is to get the video link out there, and then let me just push it and try and see where we can go. I know the person, I have the person's name, so I just need to put the request in when I have the video link.
Okay, well, I'll send it out to the whole outreach list, and we'll post the MP4 file in the lists, and I'll give a link to that so that people, because I think you have to upload it into Bright Talk as opposed to just refer a link to our YouTube.
Oh, sure.
So I think we just need to make that accessible to people and make it clear that, we're okay with them doing that.
So let me ask a slightly different question. I mean, we're getting a lot of new members, and it's wonderful, and we're not getting the greatest of attendance at these live meetings. So it's kind of a loaded question. One, I guess, is I would like to see if between like Stefano and Steve Wally, if we can kind of push all of the members, regardless of their status, for outreach participants, or at least remind them that is somewhere, that a place that they can contribute and they can participate in. And then two, when we do send this out, I'd like to make sure that we we send it out to all organizations. So if we don't have an outreach contact, I think the next best would probably be a governing board person would be my recommendation. And this.
Well, what I did when we asked people to promote it is I sent it to the outreach, the TAC, and the general list. So I could.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect.
I could do it to the same thing. I think that's all the lists, right? So.
Okay, that's great.
We also might just want to ping them and make sure that this time slot works for folks. I know we had a few people join from Europe, or sorry, from APAC. But it might be good just to throw out a question and say, hey, if we had a separate meeting that was held at a different time, would it help people? Or generally, you'll get a pretty strong response if that is the case.
Okay. Okay, so I will send that email out once we have, Stefano, maybe you can upload the MP4 into that November webinar folder that we used for the content, and that way it's in the same place. And then I'll kind of craft an email telling, you know, it could be another platform besides BrightTalk too. It's just, I think BrightTalk's the most common one that people would have. But encouraging people to host it on their own sites. Okay, the next thing I wanted to just talk about is like, let's, you know, I think the first webinar, you know, from my point of view was successful. So, you know, I think we should, you know, plan kind of future webinar, talk about cadence going forward, how many, you know, we think we can do, what the next one should be, you know, and some different topics. So, you know, we could go as frequently. I think the best practice is you need kind of a month to promote them. I do find in, you know, doing webinars myself that having a regular cadence is helpful to building a kind of following of people who go to your webinars. So whether it's monthly or every 2 months or quarterly or whatever the cadence is, that there's a regular thing and you keep up, you know, you build momentum that way. So, you know, maybe I'll open up the question, what do people think is a reasonable frequency to do this? I mean, I think this one was fairly lightweight in that, you know, it wasn't brand new content. So we had, just to give people, I think we had 2 or 3 meetings around the content, half-hour meetings prior to the webinar. So, but we could rotate who's doing the speaking so that it's not on any one person to do a lot of webinars in a row. So what are people's thoughts on the frequency?
Monthly is probably ideal.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do we have any idea what we'd want to do for the next one or next several in terms of topics? Because if we could only come up with a list of 3, then monthly would be fine, but we'd have to spend a lot of time getting topics. If we can easily rattle off a dozen topics.
But, I mean, I think some obvious topics would be like one that goes along with the details in the TAC white paper, because we already have that in written content form. That seems like a natural next one. And then, you know, recruit some people from the TAC to be the speakers who worked on the white paper. The other thing was that each open source project could have their own webinar. That would seems like that would make sense to do, which then you have, you know, as the open source projects join, you have a long list of ones to do there.
Yeah, you might want to hit specific topics too, like attestation.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking then, you know, we have like the attestation kind of SIG forming and lots of thoughts on attestation. So maybe that's another topic. So I don't think we would hurt for topics. Okay. I think the question is like, can we can we get participation in producing the content? And
I think the monthly is probably reasonable right now, and if we're going to go to projects, I think it's great. We can probably get somebody to speak, but we also want to try to make sure we just don't, pardon me, slap them into a Zoom, and find a way to kind of help up level the game a little bit, make it as professional for the CCC as well as the project as much as possible. So maybe we would have like a moderator and a speaker, so somebody to kind of handle questions and kind of engage in some flow and help provide some assistance. Maybe some back end help on maybe the presentation, refining it and keeping it to a certain size and time, to making sure that it flows nice. And we also should think about, are we going deep technical, or are we going to keep a little bit higher and then go technical later?
Well, I think the first one was higher, right? So that was kind of an introductory one. So I think it's good to go more technical, given who our audience is. I mean, we could always throw in a customer, once we have an end user committee, we could throw in kind of like customers who are using it and do a webinar and bring it higher level at whenever we have that available.
Yeah, so can we Miss Slate thing? So I think these are all great ideas, and I'd love to start kind of doing that. Can we create like a document on List.io and just start thinking of here's webinar topics, and then in doing so, identify whether we're going to go deep technical or keep it a little high level, and have either a person nominate themselves as a speaker or nominate somebody else.
Okay. Well, I think we could ask, I could ask Dave to bring it up on the TAC call tomorrow, whether the TAC would like to do the next one around the content in the white paper, if we want to kind of get started on one. And then, we can build the list for the topics for the future ones, because I think you want to have them kind of be ready to go on the next one once the current one is done.
Sure, and some of these projects might need more help, or maybe some more runway, especially if they have holidays and other things coming up.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that probably the next one wouldn't be till January, would be, because you need a month to promote it, so that would put us into mid-December already if we started now.
Yeah.
And we don't, and the TAC doesn't necessarily have slideware created yet around the white paper. I mean, some of the stuff we did in yesterday's relates to what's in the white paper, but I think you would not want to repeat that much of it and get a little deeper on some of the other topics.
A question on the Zoom platform. Could you have done a demo?
Yes, I think you can screen share just like normal Zoom.
Okay. Ben, do you want to talk to Nathaniel? Because there's a fairly rich set of demos around NARCs, is there not?
There is, and I think they just did another one recently. So yes, we have different demos we can do on multiple hardware platforms. So
I'm cheating here because we'd be setting the bar high for the projects by doing an NARCs one, but I think that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I will be happy to take any slack from the NARCs team, but generally they are more than eager to jump on anything, and there's a little prep because they already have some pretty good presentations out there, and they would just update it right before they need to with the latest and greatest. So yeah, if you want to send NARCs up for, I'm not saying the next one, but one of the earlier project ones, they would be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that team has been ticking along for a year now, really in a really strong manner, and both giving them the opportunity, and I assumed that they would like the opportunity,
Yes,
but I think it also gives us a good way to play with the format for a project.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me. I'll send Dave a note about raising the potential for a TAC webinar as the next one in January, and then I'll create a document with a list of the potential topics and maybe like a little template for people to fill out, maybe like a title abstract kind of thing, proposal.
Can I raise up one thing? What I would love to see, and maybe I'm pushing too hard here, but my marketing hat is saying, this is awesome. Could we get for each topic, could the presenter or one of the co-presenters do a blog? So we have a means to get the blog out early, and that blog at the end can have a link to the registration page to help feed some additional registration. Is there any objection to that?
I think you can ask.
Okay.
I don't think we should make it a prerequisite if someone's not able to do it, that they do a blog. I think it's good to promote it.
I think it'd be good to promote it. I'd actually argue that the ones that probably can benefit the most would be the projects, because there they have a means to provide a link back to their own project page. If they want to post any other content, they could post some, a document or their slides or something else there.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, is going to be helpful.
Long experience here. A 750 word blog post is not an outrageously difficult thing to create as a first cut.
Yes, and maybe this is something. So I'll throw myself out there if nobody else will. So if there's any hesitation from folks, and I would say more of the project folks, myself and maybe some other people can join in. If they really get stuck and they can share some content that they have, like a presentation, I'm sure somebody like myself could probably work with them and draft something out in pretty easy format, without not too much work.
And I'm happy to back you, Ben. I'm happy to share that load.
Yeah, because I see the value of having a series of recorded video content in terms of our webinar over time, as well as the blogs over time. It's good. And if they see that movement and that growth and that content or website, that's what is going to start drawing more and more people to our site, more than anything, I feel.
Yeah, I think also one of the things we did, I think people saw it because I sent it out for the promotion, was we also did like social tiles for it. So there's a like graphic image that you can share on social. I think that helps a lot because
it did. It got a lot of play, and I mean, I can take it later, but I mean, I'm just watching the social media on Twitter, and we're seeing more people join us, more people liking us, more people retweeting, more. There's more. The last 1 month we've had, a ton more than we had 3 months ago.
Okay, so we'll keep doing that. That'll be part of the standard thing is we can create a social tile from LF Creative for people, for whichever webinar it ends up being. Okay, good discussion, good ideas. We'll get going on that. I had a slide here, placeholder slide for the white paper. I think they're all still in progress. Is there anything new to report, Stefano, on the white paper changes or show people?
No, nothing, no updates yet. I should have some stuff next week.
Okay. Okay, that's okay. You sent out the email. Can you just recap it for everybody if they missed the email, what the plan is for the outreach chair election?
Sure. Yeah, pretty much the same as we did for TAC last year. So you should have all gotten an email from the list about the nomination. If you want to nominate yourself or anyone else who's a member of the outreach committee, just add their bio and statement of intent. Statement of intent is basically just a chance to describe how you see yourself or that person fulfilling their role in the coming year. We'll give that a week. Next week, I will close the nomination period and announce who the nominees are, and then we can have a vote using the Condorcet system, which is just an online voting system. So you'll, if you're a voting member, you'll get an email directly to you, and you'll be able to just select the candidate.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on this topic? Okay. Okay, that's all we had on the agenda. So maybe let's slot in some things for the next meeting, and then we can adjourn a little early. Oh, did we pick up quorum? Or are we still not at?
We did not. We're still in one short.
Okay.
Hey, Seth, could I interrupt for like maybe 1 minute?
This is a very good time to interrupt for 1 minute since we have extra time. Go ahead.
So just for the sake of things, I'm just wanted to share. So for our Twitter feed right now, I'll have 212 followers. Right. So, and since we started this in right before the first OSS, we picked up 212 followers, and we're following 82 people, and it's just looking a lot better. So you see some of the last things, and there's just a lot more. There's, like one of the last things, I think we had 37 likes to Madonna joining the Confidential Computing Consortium. Like, that's crazy. 3 months ago or 2 months ago, we were getting like if we got like 3 or 4. So, I think it's a little bit of a mix of getting some new members and some new excitement, and just slowly people are starting to hear about us from Forbes and lots of different places. And I think this is just great stuff. So
great. Thanks for the update. Okay, so I imagine, the webinar update and kind of review next webinar we should put on the list. Ben, we had we were planning on doing the Speakers Bureau stuff. Is that
yes, so that we're phasing that in, and we started with the Stefano can remind me. I think we started that by picking on all the chairs and Stefano. So, right, it has all the chairs for all the roles. And then we're rolling that out to, I believe, the governing board and next attack. So we're creating these kind of different pages for these focus groups of people. So if we reach out, if Stefano will be doing the reaching. So Stefano will probably be reaching out to people slowly when they don't have a profile or a complete profile.
Is there a page that's up now that has the existing people? Not yet, right?
No, there's just a page for leadership. So we've got our chairs
so
on there. What I'm hoping to do next is ping the TAC and start getting a technical leadership board going. So yeah, that'll be.
I think we could start just by, I mean, the point was to have one page where it just lists all the people who are available as speakers from the CCC. And we have some that we know already that
Sure.
Have done things. So, I'd say whenever you're ready, you can put those people on there and then add people as you kind of put out the call for who wants to be listed as a speaker.
Sure. Yeah, it would be a good way, actually, as people are added as speakers to webinars, we'll just sort of add them to that list.
Stefano's created a bunch of kind of non-publicized pages. They just look pretty weak because there's just a lot of empty content and there's a lot of some incomplete profiles.
Okay.
So he has it for these different kind of segments, if you will, and then he has like a catch-all everybody on the CCC that he has a profile for. So we're planning to get there, but we're trying to build it up so it doesn't look kind of too anemic. So we start with leadership, and then we're going to build through, because if we got most of the people on the outreach or the governing board or the TAC, the main active participants, then it makes sense to kind of show that. And once we kind of get the committees done, we have probably all the people who are really going to generally be talking about the CCC, so we can then publish the kind of the all-encompassing general speakers list. And anybody can be on there, right? who's engaged. So we can open that up even more.
Okay. I think there's just reach out to people. I guess you have like some of the stuff from some of the people who were on the webinar, because we did like pictures, but you don't have bios, I don't think, or.
For the webinar, I just have Ava and Nellie. They're the only two participants that weren't already on the leadership board. So what I'll probably do is the next webinar will give us a slew of more folks, and that should give us a good like technical leadership board we can start.
Okay. Okay, well, maybe we can, when you're ready, bring that
Sure.
back up in the meeting. And
Yeah. As you imagine, if you ping folks and ask for their picture and bio, you will get a resounding silence. But if we just use the webinar as a sort of gateway to getting the page built, I think we'll build a good set of technical leaders in our community.
Yeah.
People tend not to be excited to put their
want to be
photo.
listed on the speakers thing. There will be a fair number of people who want to be listed, and
I'll put
for that as providing you the bio and picture.
Yeah, I'll put a call out. I imagine you will not get a huge resounding amount of people wanting to post their picture on the web.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, any other topics for next meeting? I guess there could be, hopefully the white paper updates will be done by then, so we can talk about that.
I probably missed it. Did we get any feedback from pinging the analysts about pricing and talking?
I followed up. Actually, Steven sent me a note about that yesterday. I followed up like 2 days ago and haven't gotten a response. So I asked. The optimal timing would be getting that done like by January. So I'm kind of anxious to get their answer, because it'll take them a while to do it. Because I think if we were able to get it done in January, you could get included in like predictions stuff and get the category put as like one of the 2021 predictions. So I would like to get that done soon, but I haven't gotten a response from them yet.
And the other topic, and I know we're probably a little tired of hearing it, but the conference, we're talking about maybe doing kind of some type of CCC conference, and we had the idea from I'm forgetting the Berkeley folks, right?
The Open Enclave
workshop, right? So, I mean,
Ben, I'm still reaching out, and I still have not heard back. But thanks. I'll go poke again.
I'm not trying to call you out, Stephen.
No, that's perftly fair.
My question's twofold. One, I'll poke you, but the second one was, okay, disregarding what that happens, because we were really trying to do a live event, and I'm starting to have a little bit of doubt whether a live event is going to happen. I'd hate to wait 9 months and see a live event not happen. Should we consider a some kind of online event in the interim that we could actually plan and do? It either could be a series of kind of condensed webinars that we kind of manage in a shorter time frame, or we could do kind of an event like a Hop-In or one of these other tools, a game platform, something to have some kind of half-day event or a day event. Do we want to do something like that? I mean, it is work, but would we want to do some kind of virtual conference or not?
I don't know. I'm fairly cynical about virtual conferences myself, and maybe I don't know. My opinion would be I'd prefer to just invest time in our doing good monthly webinars until we can have physical events, and then participate in virtual events that are already organized, like the FOSDEM one and others that we monitor. Just because I think the value relative to the effort is not a good ratio.
We got some hands raised.
Go ahead, Ava, Stephen, you raised your hands.
Go ahead, Ava.
one of the values that I could imagine from us doing an event, though to be clear, I agree it's a lot of work and I'm not sure we'd realize that value yet, is project cross-pollination. Getting the projects into a virtual space, or physical would be better, to talk with each other, share ideas, things that the TAC is trying to start up, like cross-project attestation models, things like that, would be well supported by having a virtual event with all the projects and a lot of the members present. It's a good form to show the world, if you will, that, hey, this isn't just 2 or 3 projects, there's a bunch of stuff going on here, it's an interesting space. If we only show up at other conferences, with 1 or 2 projects on the schedule, it doesn't look as active here as a place for people to come participate in. So I think those are all things in favor. It's also far too much work. Like, it's really running a successful virtual event with more than 50 attendees is so much work right now. I've seen folks in very large communities like OpenStack and Kubernetes communities do a virtual conference and still only get 50 attendees. So
what about maybe the specific goal that you mentioned, like you could scope the event or scope a virtual meeting that's kind of event-like to that purpose. And that would be much less work than doing a virtual event with a bunch of talks, right?
Yes, so doing a dev day rather than presentations to a screen, I think it's a question for the TAC and for the member projects, but I think a dev day would have a much better impact for less investment.
I really like that idea.
Yep, I was going to walk along that path. The attestation discussion, as it, there seems to be lots of energy there, even though it hasn't kind of broken wide open. Is it something where what I'm thinking of, I guess, is a structured TAC meeting? If we had a couple of folks that we'd nailed for, yes, you're doing a presentation on attestation and ideas in that space, or if there's project work or project experimentation that can be demoed, do it as a developer workshop, do it as more of a workshop-like event for half a day, with a very strict focus, but kind of an open ability to attend.
You could also do it more like a series of panels, so people don't have to do presentations.
My suggestion would be not exactly either of those. The dev days that putting my developer hat on have been most valuable are the ones that enable collaboration rather than consumption. So set up have a little internal CFP between all the projects and seed from the TAC a couple topics that the TAC really wants to encourage. Attestation would certainly be one of those, there might be others. And then create channels such as Etherpads and Slacks attached to each of the topics with a with both a fixed schedule and breakout time, and say, hey folks, we've got these problems. Let's go collectively share ideas, knowledge, and come up with new solutions. Really focus it on the discussion format rather than the presentation consumption format. But of course, encourage everyone to attend and listen and learn and participate.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, Ava, because I think I keep hearing from folks around me, and I know that I'm certainly fried on them as well, as formalized conference events, pure, it's like we all spend too friggin' much time on Zoom anyway. Something that is a more interactive format might be a much better way to tackle some of this and demonstrate that we're still active.
Okay. Well, when how about we can raise that concept on the TAC, because that would be mostly, that'd be the main source of people participating other than, you know, in the projects. So I can, you know, send a note to Dave, and Ava, you know, he might, do you want to share that in the TAC tomorrow if he puts it on the agenda? The concept?
I'd be happy to. And I do also see this as an outreach function, since the creation of the event space, talking about it, raising awareness that, hey, we've got, you know, 8 projects that are busy co-developing cool solutions. Come listen, learn, and share your ideas. That's an outreach function.
Yeah, I think outreach, helping to organize and put on the event is certainly within our scope. I think, you know, we would want to have consensus from the TAC that they would participate actively before we decided to, you know,
Absolutely. Yes.
you know, make that a thing. So, okay. I think those are all good ideas. Anything else we want to cover next meeting? Okay. We can adjourn early then. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, folks.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.